Welcome to Intelligent Human Leadership, leading yourself and your team. Do you ever find yourself grappling with a lack of confidence in your team? Or battling the relentless waves of concern and fear? Are the pressures to meet client expectations and the burden of missed opportunities weighing you down? On this podcast, you'll discover the strategies and insights that will reignite your team's morale and help you find the harmony and knowledge you seek to propel your business forward. Here, we explore innovative ways to reignite your creative spirit and achieve greatness, empowering you to lead with intelligence, compassion, and resilience. If you're ready to dive deep into your core of leadership challenges and be guided toward success, here's your host, founder of Steward Your Business, David Carr.
Hello and welcome back to the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, David Carr. I'm excited to have you here back for episode 2, where we will dive into ways of knowing ourselves, to lead ourselves and our teams, to truly have that intelligent human leadership that can't be replaced with a computer, with AI. It's you, the individual, that needs to bring that in all aspects of your life. So, I want to start with us this week based on a conversation I had with another individual, and a problem or an observation I have here I want you to consider is, are you investing in yourself? Are you investing in yourself? Because if you're not investing in yourself, and that means that means time, money, certainly, in your own personal growth, your actual development of who you are as an individual. If you kind of put it in set it and forget it mode, or are you actually investing time and money in who you're becoming? And if you're not, I want to bring this challenge to you. So here's a problem that I see is you have individuals that want results. Things are not working in their life, or they're working, but they're not working great. And this is the conversation I had with one of this person this week. Was I gave them some tools and some resources, and I'll give you some here today as well, to help address some of the issues they were at. But they were like, "Well, if this is going to cost me anything more than an encouraging word, then I'm not really in." And I really want to encourage you in that. Are you the person that recognizes problems and challenges and invests in them and truly goes all in and does the work required to see real, I would even say transformation. I like that word a lot better, to where you have moved from where you were to a place ideally unrecognizable. You've actually become aware, you've made the adjustments because you've put in the work to make the necessary improvements in your life, to overhaul them, if you will. So here's the observation of the problem. If you're not investing in those things and you're trying to get by with the minimal stuff, I can get by, it doesn't really need that much. How is that working for you? Okay. So many of us have, drive cars. If we only do the minimum and we don't do the maintenance that's required in that, the car is not going to last us very long, right? If we don't do the oil changes, if we don't invest when the timing belt needs to be replaced, it's going to break down and you're not going to have a car that works. So oftentimes as leaders or business owners, we feel like we maybe have hit a place where, hey, we've got it, we understand it, we've been doing this work for a while, we have these technical skills. We've been doing business for a time, but I want to encourage you today. If you're not thinking about investing in yourself continually, then you're in trouble. Okay. I'm going to go through some different areas in this podcast in some things of that nature. Number one, when we take time and we invest, especially externally, and my job as a coach and a consultant is helping individuals and their teams in this area, but oftentimes we're not reflecting truly we may have some self-reflection, but there's nobody else actually providing us some feedback or observation. And that's what a really good coach does. And oftentimes we get in an echo chamber. Here, have you ever been around those people? Well, you're the, I guess, the smartest person on the block, if you will, or in the group, and you get yes people. Yes, okay, whatever. Yes, you're right. There is no pushback. There is no questioning of you, because in this place you don't have anybody that is equal to or is further along. Actually, what you're really looking for is somebody further along in their journey that can question your thoughts, question this opportunity to look back and give you true feedback as to how are you leading, where are your strengths, where are areas for improvement. You have blind spots. We all do. We all have blind spots. The challenge is we don't want to crash and do damage because of our blind spots. Oftentimes we talk about blind spots while we're driving, right? You're driving, you think everything's clear, you make a move, and there's an accident. Now, an accident could be simply a little bump, but it could be traumatic, right? We could literally die. We could literally die and lose not just our lives, but it's a cascading effect across our families, our businesses, of unintended consequences. So I want you to think about that. When you're not investing in yourself, you're not going to be able to effectively lead your team, let alone yourself. And so you become stagnant, right? As a biologist, and my background is like, when you see stagnant water, it is not always the good thing. You don't want to be drinking from a stagnant stream, right? That is not good. You want something flowing. You want fresh water. You want to be able to, take from that, because it's life. Means if something is moving and growing, it's expanding. And oftentimes what happens is, if we're not paying attention in a particular role, our technical skills, as a business owner, if we're not looking at where the market sector is moving, where their trends are, regulations, you hear of a SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. But if we're doing that in a vacuum, without external sources, and today's age, we have a lot of them. We have a lot of resources. So there's one thing to invest money, and oftentimes that kind of it seems to be a solution, right? Oh, I'll pay for this course, I'll do that, and I don't really do the work. This is where it's so important to have a third party or an individual come alongside you. This is where I started years ago in my own professional journey, starting to buy a book. Oh, I'll buy a book and reading the book and applying that. But I find that at times we do not do that, or we stop doing that, or we think that's enough. And how many of you guys have seen businesses that didn't continue to review and see what's going on in their life? Let's use, I don't know, Kodak. That's a company you might have heard of before. They're not here anymore. Why? Well, they didn't look at the market trends. They didn't trust outside insights. They told themselves a story internally that we're okay and we'll make it through. We'll have this. We make film, and there's always going to be film, and there's not that much film anymore, folks. If you look around, you have lots of digital products out there. The reason I bring this up is, if we're not being intentional about getting clear and helping and having folks give us clear counsel, mentorship that are further along the journey, we get isolated. We get in an echo chamber, and we believe we have the answers, and really we don't, or we've lost touch. And for me, this was a big one. For those of you that are leading teams, if you're not paying attention to this, your teams are they're going to find information. They want to know what's going on in the world. And they're like, I'm not getting it here. I'm not getting it at my office. I'm not getting it in the technical experiences that I need to do to develop myself, because the manager or the leader in that team organization has stopped. They basically said, yeah, I've got enough. I don't need to do it anymore. And when you stop doing that, it will taint your team, right? And it's one thing to say, okay, the team members aren't as engaged. But when you start dropping, then when they start leaving, let me tell you, right? How many times have you like, oh boy, now that falls on me to take up what they were doing? Because if I would have kept them engaged, I would have invested in them and given them the guidance about, hey, I invest in myself. And by doing so, it's so important that I invest in you and your development. But when you don't do that, when you aren't investing in yourself, you're definitely not going to be investing in your team because they're going to see that in you. And when you're not aware, you're going to have communication breakdowns, right? Here's where the challenge: to effectively communicate with your team, addressing misunderstanding, conflicts, breakdowns. I'll be 50 here shortly. There've never in my career have I seen such a diversity of communication styles and ways of communicating. We've got all these different technologies. And if you're not keeping up with those things, right? I mean, I really went literally on a training where if you use the wrong emoji type, it means something to somebody else. Now, you may be pulling your hair out. You're like, I can't believe that. But it's true. And if you have a communication breakdown because you're not investing and becoming aware of this, you have a disconnected team. You may have disconnected children. Worst of all, you may have a disconnected spouse because you're not understanding how to commute with them because you haven't invested in that. I've been married for almost 18 years. I continue to invest. And as I've been doing these things, I'm seeing the results of increased communication, collaboration, better decision making. But when I stop, when I take my foot off the gas, when I say, I've got it, I'm okay, you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. Not only is it the communication breakdown and this overall potentially lack of emotional intelligence, right? You don't understand people's emotions and what's driving them because you have gotten so self-focused in what you know and how you are. You may not have lost that ability to connect emotionally. And I'm telling you, there's a certain group of people, actually there's a large group of people, particularly I ought to call the nurturers, that really pull on that. And if you're not one of those people, for example, and you're not aware of how to do that and you haven't developed those skills, in developing skills and developing abilities, you certainly can watch a video. You can certainly read a book. My experience is, though, that's limited because you need to be in community. You need to be a coach, for example, is going to push you along. They're going to be asking you some of the tougher questions to see if this is really stuck with you. And oftentimes, those that have been successful in an area don't want to put themselves in a place like that because they've closed themselves off to learning. They've closed themselves off to this continual development and investment in themselves. So when you continue to do that, like I said, it leads to a lack of emotional intelligence. We've talked about a communication breakdown. Literally, you won't be able to communicate with folks effectively if you're not becoming aware. If you're 10 years old, a generation, communicating with the other generations is going to be more difficult. You have to learn. And as we look back in life, what we did one way, look at 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it's not exactly the same way. Now, people are people, grant you that. But the ways that we communicate in the technologies we use, what is relevant, culturally relevant, changes. And you need to be aware of those things. A coach, if you're not, is here to help guide you. For example, I help those who may have it difficult finding to navigate these things, navigate the challenges and the conflicts there, and they don't know how to resolve it. They're like going in these circles, right? And so if you're in this circle, like how do you break that chain? If you're not saying, I need to get outside perspective. I mean, there used to be, and I think there's still some stigma with mental health or counseling. I'm glad it's not as much as it once was, but it definitely was more in the past where people were like, oh my goodness, this guy, something's wrong with him because he's going to talk to a counselor. To me, it's super empowering if you recognize that you need help in somebody that's been further along this journey with you, wherever that might be, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's your technical skills as a businessman or woman, or your technical skills as whatever the work that you do. engineering, environmental consulting, whatever that might be. It could be your body. When I was 40 years old, 10 years ago, I went to the gym and I hired a trainer. I could have gone to the gym and just worked through the, figured out something, right? But I realized if I didn't invest in that help beyond me just going and paying for the gym membership, I could have hurt myself, actually physically hurt myself. I saw people lifting weights, right? I mean, I don't want to go and hurt themselves, overextending themselves or not doing the right thing, right? In the right move. And now you've actually hurt yourself. You put yourself out of the game physically, but it also could help a lot of areas in your relationships and how you can do your work, especially if you're physically in construction or doing some other type of work. So if you're not being intentional about that, you can put yourself in real harm, and you're really doing a disservice to not just obviously yourself, but to those around you. I see a lot of business owners, in particular, and leaders of the team dealing with burnout and stress. They're so burned out, they're so tired, they can't even see straight. They're working 70, 80 hours, piling on things, and they're not making clear strategic decisions and balancing priorities, actually taking care of their body. Because if they would have slowed down, and you're like, well, I can't spend $1,000 on a trainer or whatever the cost might be. I'm just throwing out a number, right? But what's the cost of you not? What's the cost of that? Not if you're using the example I just gave about going to the gym, right? If you hurt yourself and you have now these doctor bills, you go to the doctor, takes you time, right? Now I've got to go there. I look like an idiot because I hurt my leg and now I can't walk around, right? I'm like, what happened to you? Well, I twisted my arm or my leg because I wasn't doing the workout right. I mean, the time, how much is your time worth? If this speeds up your time, I think that's one of the greatest things, and why, again, I can't solve all these things here on the podcast with you, but what I can tell you and encouraging you in this journey of self-investment is it compresses time, which is amazing. So what would have taken you, let's say a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, if you have somebody from outside that can say, oh, well, here's what I'm seeing in you. And if you make these changes in your life with your business, let's just say, I'll give you an example. There was one we had in a company I worked with, and we'd never had deposits in our proposals. And so we had suggested, well, and we were dealing with cash flow, right? Consultant came in and said, well, why don't you, let's look at your proposals, which they did. And then they said, why don't you just add a percentage deposit to the upfront that the client would pay? And I didn't really think about that, right? And we did that, and especially for our new clients, and that helped tremendously in securing cash flow for the company, stabilizing, invoicing and payments and accounts receivable. And so how things can be expedited or compressed in that time is amazing. And actually think about that. How many other missed opportunities would you have if you didn't have that person? If they didn't have that, you weren't investing in that and missing that, the opportunities to innovate, expand, optimize where you're at much more quickly. I love being able to see that with clients that I work with, and where they are able to leapfrog, if you will, ahead of the competition, because they're bringing in somebody that has extreme expertise, understanding. They know how to apply what you might have read. It's like I said, one thing, there's a classic book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen R. Covey. I'm going through that with the team right now. It's one thing to read it. It's another thing to actually implement what you're learning and getting feedback and having a feedback loop and applying that. But if you're not doing that, you're missing out. And there's ultimately, you have a lack of accountability and ways of moving. Like, did I say what I was going to do, what I said, right? Did I do the work? Did I commit to what I was going to do or not? And so you're missing out in that. And by not doing it for yourself, because this podcast, Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast, is about knowing yourself to lead yourself and your teams and whoever else is in your life, your sphere of influence. If you're not clear on that, you have a broken down team. You have a broken down relationship with your perhaps your wife or husband, your children, because you're not doing the investment and they see it, they know it. You don't have to tell them. It's very obvious when you can tell the people that are truly working on themselves and the people that are phoning it in, or they say, I don't really need to do any of that stuff. Doesn't apply to me. I don't know anybody that has achieved and dominated in these areas of life without this. And it's not a home run. A lot of people want to hit a home run. They want to step up to the plate or throw that, amazing long pass for the end zone for a touchdown. And that's rarely happens. Rarely happens. It's all about step-by-step individual investments daily deposits. And so I really want to impress on you, if you're not doing that, your growth and the results that you see in your life are directly related to that. I really want you to think about that for a minute. Your results, and I believe it's wrong personally. You're wrong in allowing that just to languish there, because you can do so much more. Really think about that right now. You can do so much more than you are right now. And I truly believe that for many of you. Just take a minute here and think about that. Think about that where you are in leading yourself and your teams. Are you going all in, truly? Or are you letting off the gas? Have you really invested in yourself? Invested in your time, in your money, your focus, your commitment? Because I can tell you, if you truly take an honest inventory of your life right now, where you're at, you'll see there are areas that you're not. And I've been in there. But I'm not. I'm choosing to invest continually, and it makes all the difference. And when you do that, I want to encourage you in that you will see not only your results increase, but you'll see that of your team, particularly for those of you that lead a team. But I also see it in families, in spouses. When you're rising and up and you're doing the work, it's like people notice and they want to keep up, or they'll leave. And actually, leaving is okay too, because it leaves room for others to come into your team. Your team performance will actually increase when you have those in an organization. That actually will help the team become more positive and high performing. The culture is healthier, and your overall productivity and morale increases. So I'm telling you this, and when you start to invest in all areas, and what's interesting in this is when you start to level up in one area, you'll start to see where you're leaking, if you will, in another area. And if you have good coaches or people in your life, my wife is great at this. She knows when I'm letting an area languish a bit and I'm not investing in there the way I really need to, I miss out. And she knows it, and we know we're all better in the long run when we're all doing this. And so I want you to really think about this problem that I raised today. Are you investing in yourself, spending the time and the money to improve yourself in all areas of your life? It starts with leading yourself first before anyone else is going to follow you. And I want you to know that it's so important that you find this. Well, this is why you can be the intelligent human leader, right? You can understand. You're not gonna settle for your limited self-reflection or your stagnant leadership skills. You're sick of the communication breakdowns. You're not going to stand for it anymore because you know it can be better. You can be emotionally tied in and connected. You know how to connect and have effective conversations and resolve them. You're not going to burn out and stress. You gain so many more opportunities because you have somebody in a team, an individual coaching you, guiding you, so that you have the opportunity to take advantage of these things and compress the time. So this is why I created the Intelligent Human Leadership podcast and why I started Steward Your Business, is to have these conversations, to bring you to awareness, number one, so that you can make a choice to move to investing in yourself. This is just an example for today. I'm talking about investing in yourself. We're going to talk a lot more about how we do this in the coming episodes. I'll get into more specifics, but I wanted to talk broadly because I talked about turning into the problem last episode and specifically where we have challenges in our marriage. Here's one. Are you turning toward the challenge of investing in yourself or not? And I want you to really think about that and do an honest inventory for yourself. And if you know you're phoning it in, I'm investing in with I buy a book or I bought an online course or a webinar, but you know you didn't go all in, then I want to encourage you to think and go deeper there. Do the work required, truly work the required to get the results that you really want and desire. And if you're not getting those results, then let's look at what's working and it's not working. I offer a free discovery call so we can look at those things and see if we can help you there. But I want to encourage you with this today. Look and lean into whether or not you're investing in yourself, your time, your money, and you're getting the results that you really desire. And if you say you're investing and you're not getting the results, then let's look at the activities that you're doing and seeing if they're effective or not. We'll be talking more about those things in future episodes, about the specific things that you're doing in order to achieve them. But for today, where I leave you in this, wherever you're hearing this podcast, in your car, driving, walking around, I want you to take a moment, take a little inventory with me, and when you finish listening to this podcast, and message me, let me know what you think, and where you are or you're not, and I appreciate your time and listening to this. We're going to have more conversations along these lines, but I want to encourage you. You are an intelligent human leader, just taking the time to listen and invest in this. Now here's your homework. Here's your opportunity to go deeper and look at that and be that leader that brings that to your team and the others actually say and see you without a shadow of a doubt. If I asked your wife, if I asked your coworker, asked your children, you're like, no, this man, he is constantly looking to learn and apply what he's learning, and it's doing it in amazing ways. And he's not spinning his wheels. He's actually having tremendous results. And if you're not having those things and you're not having those comments, well, let's have a conversation and let's see where we can help you, get unstuck and start having those observations from the people around you, those ones that love you, those ones that appreciate you and that really want to see you succeed. I want to see you succeed. So I appreciate you again listening here tonight, this afternoon, wherever you may be, to the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, David Carr. Until next time, have a great evening.